Imagine this. You're on your college campus and all of a sudden a student throws something at you. Or even then, you witness somebody being sexually harassed or assaulted. Would you know what to do in this situation? Now, there are many of us that would know how to maneuver through a situation like this, but there's a large amount of us that actually wouldn't know what to do in this type of situation. According to the National Center of Education Statistics, published in the year 2023, there were more than 9,000 sexual assaults reported, and there were more than 1,000 aggravated assaults reported on the college campus. Now, this is very concerning because this actually makes up more than 50% of the crimes reported on that campus. So because of that, it is very important for us to learn how to deal with these situations so we could better deal with them in the future. So it's certain that when we don't expect things, bad things happen when we least expect them. That is why it is important for us to learn what indirect and direct forms of sexual harassment and assault look like. Now, there are many forms of indirect and direct sexual harassment. According to King and Siegel law attorneys, published in 2023, an indirect form of sexual harassment would be following somebody without their permission or even entering their home without their permission. All those would be considered indirect forms of sexual harassment. Published on 2021, Aegis Law Team's website stated that touching or verbal sexual communication, like asking for sexual favors or even sexual jokes, those would all be considered sexual harassment. Now, just like sexual harassment, assault could also be considered indirect and direct. According to Los Angeles crime attorneys, an indirect form of assault would be touching somebody with an object or throwing an object at somebody. According to Tarnow criminal law, a direct form of assault would be hitting somebody, pushing somebody, or even kicking somebody. Those would all be forms of direct assault. So now that we've talked about indirect and direct forms of assault and sexual harassment, we will now talk about what to do when you are confronted with these situations. So there are many ways to handle sexual harassment and assault. When you witness sexual harassment or assault, it is important to take control of the situation. According to UC Berkeley, we can do this with verbal confrontation. Now, this would be like telling the person what they're doing isn't okay, or even telling them to stop what they're doing. And if you don't feel comfortable with doing that, you could also even get somebody, if you're a witness or even if you're experiencing the assault yourself, the sexual harassment, yourself, you could also tell somebody about it, and then they will help diffuse the situation and even probably stop it from happening. Another way of also gaining control of the situation or taking control of the situation is actually remaining there as a witness for that person that's being sexually harassed. Because most of the time when somebody knows that there's a witness to their behavior, they're less likely to keep continuing the behavior because they know there's going to be consequences to that behavior. The University of Chicago also states that we can interrupt the conversation by asking a question, like asking, hey, do you guys know what the time is? Or even then just, asking where they're going to be going later. It's just any type of question to make that scenario hop into a different type of conversation pretty much. It's going to shift the whole conversation into something else and might even stop it from happening. So when assault occurs, it is important to get others involved and step in. So it is very important to let others know when things like this are happening. The emergency guide on Saddleback College's website actually states that when you are being assaulted, it is important to report this to the local authorities or even to the campus police. If you suspect that somebody is going to be assaulted, or you yourself think that you're going to be assaulted, it is important to stay in groups. This will not only lessen the chances that the assault will occur, but it'll also keep you guys all safe. So far, I've talked about indirect and direct forms of sexual harassment and assault. I've also talked about what to do when you guys are confronted with these types of situations. Now I'm going to be talking to you guys about what you guys can do after you have escaped the perpetrator. There are many options after safely escaping a perpetrator. One of these options is actually reporting it to the local authorities or even to your campus police. And deciding whether or not you would like to press charges. According to the Saddleback College's assault page, both of these people, pretty much the Saddleback College police and the local authorities, will be able to press charges if that is something that you're willing to do. According to the same assault page on Saddleback College's website, they also state that it is important that you conserve as much evidence as possible. This could be meaning the clothes that you're wearing, just anything that was used in the scenario, like a weapon or anything like that was used against you, like if something was thrown at you. It is important to keep all those types of evidence so that the incident can be reported correctly. So another option when actually escaping the perpetrator safely is actually getting a restraining order. And the Judicial Branch of California actually states that this restraining order is actually something that can be used to stop another person from doing acts that another person doesn't want them to do. Pretty much this could be like following them, texting them, calling them. And that same website, the Judicial Branch of California, states that if someone breaks this restraining order, they will be given consequences, which could be a fine or even jail time. And both of those consequences could actually be given. And that's not only a good thing for the victim, but it gives the perpetrator a consequence so that they'll be less likely to commit that or keep continuing that offense. So far, I've talked about, throughout the speech, I've talked about indirect and direct forms of sexual harassment and assault. I've talked about what you guys can do when approached with these situations, and I've also explained what you can do after you have escaped this situation. So now that you know about all this information, thinking back to that first question we asked in the beginning, would you know what to do if you were assaulted or sexually harassed?